Bombs away! It's time for me to show you bombers. Bombers were airplanes that carry bombs. In this video, I'll be telling you my top 10 favorite bombers from World War II and the others. Number 10. The B26 Marauder, made by American manufacturer Glenn L. Martin. The Martin B26 Marauder is an American World War II twin-engine medium bomber built by the Glenn L. Martin Company in Middle River, Maryland, just east of Baltimore from 1941 till 1945. First used in the Pacific Theater in early of 1942, it was also used in the Mediterranean Theater and Western Europe. Of a staggering 5,288 aircraft built, only 6 survived, including this one at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Number 9. The B50 Superfortress, made by American manufacturer Boeing. Produced from 1947 to 1953, the Boeing B50 Superfortress is an American strategic bomber, a post-World War II revision of the Boeing B29 Superfortress. It was fitted with more powerful Pratt & Whitney R4360 radial engines. Of the 370 aircraft produced, only 5 survived, like this one at the Castle Air Museum at former Castle Air Force Base in Atwater, California. Number 8. The HE-111, made by German manufacturer Heinkel. The Heinkel HE-111 was a German aircraft designed by Siegfried and Walter Gunther at Heinkel Fukushiki in 1934. Perhaps the best recognized German bomber due to the distinctive, extensively glared greenhouse nose of later versions, the HE-111 was the most numerous Luftwaffe bomber during the early stages of World War II. Only 4 of the 6,508 aircraft exist, like this one at the Norwegian Air Force Museum. Number 7. The Ju-87, made by German manufacturer Junkers. The Junkers Ju-87, or Stuka from Sturzmannsflensche, or dive bomber, was a German dive bomber and ground attack aircraft designed by Hermann Pohlmann. It first flew in 1935. The Ju-87 made its combat debut in 1937. The aircraft was easily recognizable by its inverted gull wings and fixed spatted undercarriage. Upon the leading edges, it fared on main gear legs that were mounted their Jericho trumpet wailing sirens, becoming the propaganda symbol of German air power and so-called Blitzkrieg victories of 1939 through 1942. 8 out of the 6,000 Stukas produced are around today, like this one at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, Illinois. Number 6. The G4M BENE, made by Japanese manufacturer Mitsubishi. The Mitsubishi G4M was the main twin-engine land-based bomber used by the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service in World War II. In some cases in this photo, you could see a Yokosuka MXY-7 Oka. The BENE bomber had a very good performance, especially in operational range. This was achieved by structural lightness and almost total lack of protection for the crew, with no armor or self-sealing fuel tanks. Although 3 wrecks of the BENE survive at museums. In this picture, you can see the one at the Planes of Fame Air Museum in Chino, California. And don't worry, that Oka picture is actually the Oka Model 22. It's at the Smithsonian Air Museum. Number 5. The Tu-95. With over 500 aircraft made by Russian manufacturer Tupolev, the Tu-95 is nicknamed the Bear by NATO. It was used in the Cold War by the Soviet Union starting in 1956, and it will retire in the year of 2040. Wow, that's a lot of ways. Looks like we're going back to the US for number 4. Number 4, the B-2 Spirit. Made by American manufacturer Northrop, later Northrop Grumman. The Northrop, later Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit, also known as the Stealth Bomber, is an American heavy strategic bomber featuring low observable stealth technology designed for penetrating dense anti-aircraft defenses. It's a flying wing with a crew of 2. It entered service in 1997 as the second aircraft designed to have advanced stealth technology after the F-117 Nighthawk made by American manufacturer Lockheed. The U.S. Air Force hasn't retired one of their B-2s yet, but there's a test bed on display at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Number 3, the B24 Liberator. Made by American manufacturer Consolidated Aircraft. The Consolidated B-24 Liberator is an American heavy bomber designed by Consolidated Aircraft of San Diego, California. The B-24 was rapidly phased out of U.S. service, although the PB-4Y2 Privateer Maritime Patrol derivative carried in service with the U.S. Navy in the Korean War. Some wrecks of the B-24 are still there, like the famous B-24D Lady Be Good. There are still 2 airworthy B-24s in service, the B-24D Diamond Lil at the Commemorative Air Force, and the B-24J Witchcraft at the Collings Foundation. Number 2, the B25 Mitchell, made by American manufacturer North American Aviation. The same manufacturer that gave you the well-known P-51 Mustang, F-86 Sabre, and T-6 Texan comes this bomber, the B25 Mitchell, the most famous bomber of their lineup. The North American B25 Mitchell is an airplane introduced in 1941 and named in honor of Major General William Mitchell, or Billy Mitchell, a pioneer of U.S. military aviation. The majority of the B-25s in American service were used in the war against Japan, Asia, and the Pacific Islands. There are still many B-25s in airworthy condition, like the Photo Fanny, as you can see in this photo. It is owned by the Planes of Fame Air Museum in Chino, California. Before I reveal number 1, here are some honorable mentions. The B17 Flying Fortress, the B29 Superfortress, the B47 Stratojet, and the B52 Stratofortress. You knew these four were coming, all made by American manufacturer Boeing. First up, the B17 Flying Fortress. With over 12,000 B-17s produced, 42 B-17Ds, 45 B-17Es, 3,403 B-17Fs, and a staggering 8,605 B-17Gs were built. With that much B-17s built, there are actually photos of captured B-17s, like this one in Japan and this one from Germany. Some of these B-17s that survived are the 909 at the Collings Foundation, the Fuddy Duddy at the Lion Air Museum in Santa Ana, California, the Miss Angela at the Palm Springs Air Museum, the Restored to Flight Petticali II at Planes of Fame Museum in Chino, California, the Thunderbird at the Lone Star Flight Museum in Houston, Texas, the Aluminum Overcast at the Experimental Aircraft Association, or EAA, the Liberty Bell at Brooks Aviation in Douglas, Georgia, which used to look like this, and finally, the Memphis Bell at the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. Next up, the B29 Superfortress. The most famous B-29s we know about is the Enola Gay, the plane that carried the little atomic bomb to Hiroshima, which is at the Smithsonian Air Museum in Virginia. The next is the Boxcar, which carried the Fat Man atomic bomb to Nagasaki. It is at, yet again, the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. The Fifi, owned by the Commemorative Air Force, is one of two only flying B-29 Superfortresses. And finally, the most famous wreck, the B-29 Keybird, which a restoration team was trying to rescue in 1995, and then it caught on fire, and that's what the wreck looks like this in Greenland. Next up is the sixth jet engine bomber known as the B47 Stratojet. Dang, there is a lot of these B47s that survived, and here are some of the pictures. And finally, everyone's favorite, the B52 Stratofortress, also known as the Buff, which means big ugly fella. It is planned to retire the B52 Stratofortress in the 2050s. Here are some pictures of retired B52s on display at aviation museums today. Alright everybody, thanks for watching my top 10 bombers of World War II and others. See you later. Goodbye.